We really never thought we'd see anything like this. There are currently 2 teams of police on the king's estate searching the king's property.
He was just Prince Charles at the time.
Correct.
He wasn't yet king. That could drag him right into this legal proceeding and either kill the legal proceeding or kill Charles's reign as king.
Correct. Because no one really believes, Meghan, that Andrew is going to plead guilty. Why would he do that? I mean, he would get guaranteed jail time.
This is the story of a man who once stood right at the heart of Britain's royal world. A man who watched power, privilege, and shocking behavior unfold behind palace doors. Now, a new memoir from Princess Diana's former butler is lifting the curtain on years of explosive royal drama that many believed would stay hidden forever. Paul Burrell spent more than 2 decades inside the British royal household, witnessing moments few outsiders ever imagined existed. He first served as a footman to Queen Elizabeth II, later becoming butler to King Charles III, back when he was still the Prince of Wales. From grand ceremonies to private family tensions, Burrell saw the monarchy both polished and painfully human. Burrell became widely known as the personal butler and trusted confidant of Princess Diana, serving her from 1987 until her tragic death in Paris in 1997. Their relationship went beyond formal duty. He was part employee, part protector, and someone Diana reportedly trusted during some of the most turbulent years of her life. His earlier memoir, A Royal Duty, sold more than 2 million copies worldwide and shocked readers with its insider perspective. Now, at age 67, Burrell has returned with another book titled The Royal Insider: My Life with the Queen, the King, and Princess Diana, published in January 2026 by Haza Mobius. And this time, the allegations surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor are stirring fresh controversy that many observers find difficult to ignore.
I've always thought Andrew was suspicious. It all started back with that interview back in the day where he just completely torpedoed his entire career, the way he answered those questions.
According to Burrell, the behavior he witnessed was not rare or occasional. It was a pattern he says played out again and again. He explained, "I had lots of interactions with Andrew over the years." Burrell added that he personally saw what he described as arrogance, recalling moments when Andrew would allegedly tell people to F off, get out of here, F off. Burrell described the language as shocking and said staff members felt deeply disrespected by how they were treated. Tensions reportedly grew behind the scenes, especially during late-night gatherings that pushed palace workers beyond reasonable hours. Burrell remembered staff becoming frustrated and exhausted, saying they were regularly kept working long past midnight because of royal dinner parties. What sounded like minor inconvenience at first slowly became a much bigger issue inside palace walls. Those late nights carried serious consequences. Andrew's dinner parties allegedly stretched so late that Queen Elizabeth II herself intervened, stepping in to address the situation directly. But according to Burrell, even a personal reprimand from the monarch did not immediately bring lasting change, a detail that surprised many who believed royal authority always settled disputes instantly.
So you'll remember the relationship between the late Queen and Andrew was really close, right? She viewed him as
She loved him.
Yep, she adored him. She never believed these allegations. I spoke to people very close to the late Queen who insisted to me the late Queen always believed that Andrew was innocent. However, the big problem for Charles is that the Queen, despite feeling that way, had completely banished Andrew from public life. She had stripped him of his titles, stripped him of his royal duties. But it was the King who made this unfathomable decision to bring him back into the fold.
After being confronted by his mother, Andrew and Sarah Ferguson reportedly reacted in ways that stunned palace staff. Burrell claimed the couple refused to allow maids into their rooms to make the beds, choosing to remain in their rooms for extended periods and, in his words, abusing the system entirely. These actions, he suggested, reflected deeper dynamics inside the royal family rather than isolated incidents. Burrell believes the roots of this behavior traced back to family dynamics and upbringing. He said Andrew appeared to feel protected and secure because of his close bond with his mother. Burrell stated, "He was always entitled, always because he had his mother's protection." He even suggested, carefully but directly, that maybe our dear late Queen was to blame for that because she never said no to her favorite son.
And as I say,
what kind
who
of
has his hands
relationship
clean
do
is William.
Andrew and Charles have? How do these brothers get along?
Well, not great. Andrew has always been a bit of a buffoon, but the problem for Charles, Meghan, is that it was him who decided to bring Andrew back into the royal fold.
Timing, Burrell argued, played a major role. By the time Andrew was born, Queen Elizabeth II reportedly had more freedom to focus on motherhood than she did with her older children, Charles and Anne. According to Burrell, she showed Andrew exceptional affection, creating a relationship that shaped how he navigated royal life. Meanwhile, Prince Philip operated very differently. Burrell described him as the firm guardian of the gate, ensuring that senior royals followed strict protocol and preventing family members from bypassing official channels to reach the Queen directly, a system meant to preserve order inside one of the world's most scrutinized families. Behind the polished balconies and perfectly timed royal appearances, palace life was never as calm as it looked from the outside. Former insiders have often described an environment where reputation mattered more than reality, and where problems were managed quietly instead of openly discussed. According to accounts shared over the years, staff members learned quickly that loyalty was expected at all times, even when situations became uncomfortable or difficult to navigate. Several former employees reportedly believed there was an unspoken rule inside royal service: protect the institution first, ask questions later.
And he's been in a tough spot due to his brother's shenanigans for quite some time. And there have been rumors that the Queen was helping to sort of make this go away as well. Whatever happened, enough has happened that they can't keep covering up for him. Andrew has messed up enough. There's too much out there, and rightfully so. Enough is enough. No one is too above the law, right? And if he is indeed guilty of actions, he should pay the consequence. And so the king, rightfully, I think now enough pressure is there. He can't go there and keep defending his brother. He now, I believe he has for some time, and people could judge that, but it's his family, et cetera, et cetera. But now that there's actually a case, there's actually charges. Yeah, the king's got to back off and say, good luck, bro. This is all on you now.
One former staff member was said to have remarked, "You didn't challenge the system, you adapted to it." That mindset created a culture where complaints rarely traveled far, and where junior staff often relied on silence rather than confrontation. For many workers, maintaining stability inside the palace meant keeping personal opinions firmly in the background. What makes these stories stand out is how differently various royals were perceived behind closed doors. Some were remembered for kindness and professionalism, while others developed reputations that circulated quietly among staff corridors and service quarters. Palace workers allegedly shared warnings with newcomers, subtle advice passed down like insider survival tips, who preferred strict formality, who disliked delays, and who expected immediate obedience without explanation. Over time, those whispered conversations built a larger picture of palace dynamics that the public rarely saw. The grand ceremonies, glittering receptions, and carefully staged photographs told only half the story. Behind them existed long working hours, intense pressure, and a constant need to maintain discretion no matter what unfolded. As one insider reportedly said, "The palace runs on tradition, but also on people who carry its secrets every day." And it's those hidden experiences, shared piece by piece, that continue to reshape how the world understands royal life today. But Andrew didn't seem to play by the same rules as everyone else inside the palace. And that's where the story takes an even sharper turn.
This morning at 8 o'clock, 6 vehicles turned up at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate where Andrew's now living. Police vehicles, it turned out. It was fairly obvious for those who were there that that's what they were. One of the vehicles drove up the front drive. 5 of the vehicles went round the back. So that's a kind of police tactic where you appear at the front door but make sure there's not an opportunity for everyone to disappear out the back.
While strict protocol guided most senior royals, Burrell suggests Andrew often moved outside those boundaries, creating tension that quietly built behind closed doors. What makes this account more striking is how that sense of privilege appeared to extend beyond just one person. Sarah Ferguson, now 66, entered royal life from a very different background. Burrell described her as a farmer's daughter, the child of a polo manager who suddenly found herself surrounded by unimaginable wealth and status. According to Burrell, Andrew reportedly told her she could have anything she wanted, and that promise changed everything. Burrell recalled, "She had it all. Everything she wanted she had," adding that over time, she became accustomed to royal luxury and developed expectations that matched it. In his view, the couple's personalities aligned perfectly, saying they were well-matched. The lifestyle, attention, and privilege created a dynamic that, according to him, reinforced a shared sense of entitlement. Years later, the royal landscape looks very different. Ferguson has left Royal Lodge, and both she and Andrew no longer hold their former royal titles.
good question. He took very tough action back in October when he stripped him of his title. He was kicked out of the Royal Lodge at Windsor. He takes that role as the most important part of what he does. But he's a brother. Now, they may not be that close, but he's nonetheless a brother. And I suspect now that he's, as it were, banished.
The loss of status didn't happen suddenly. It unfolded slowly through years of controversy, public scrutiny, and mounting pressure that ultimately led to a decisive moment. On October 30th, 2025, King Charles III formally removed Andrew's remaining royal titles and honors, closing a chapter that had once defined his public identity. The man once known as His Royal Highness Prince Andrew, Duke of York, is now referred to simply as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a dramatic shift that signals how far circumstances have changed. The turning point traces back to 2019, when Andrew stepped away from official royal duties following a BBC interview addressing his connection to the controversial financier, which sparked intense public scrutiny. Royal commentators widely described that interview as deeply damaging, saying it intensified public criticism rather than easing concerns. Since then, palace officials no longer issue statements on Andrew's behalf, marking an unprecedented distance between him and the institution he once represented. Legal scrutiny has also continued to follow the situation.
So in the path, are you saying that if Andrew calls Charles or needs Charles as a witness, like
Yes.
I told my brother the following,
Yes.
and he blessed this payment or he blessed that thing, even though he was just Prince Charles at the time,
Correct.
he wasn't yet king, that could drag him right into this legal proceeding and either kill the legal proceeding or kill Charles's reign as king.
Correct. Because no one really believes, Meghan, that Andrew is going to plead guilty. Why would he do that? I mean, he would get guaranteed jail time. I agree with you. It's not going to be life imprisonment. That is the maximum sentence for misconduct in public office. But I know the type of guy that Andrew is. He is not going to plead guilty.
The Metropolitan Police confirmed they are reviewing matters connected to Andrew after an email surfaced that allegedly showed him directing a police bodyguard to collect personal information about his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, in 2011, including details such as her social security number and date of birth, a development that added yet another layer of controversy to an already complex story. As public controversy grew louder, the atmosphere around Andrew began shifting in ways that insiders say were impossible to ignore. Royal watchers noticed fewer appearances, fewer official photographs, and a silence from palace communications that felt unusually deliberate. The absence itself became part of the story, signaling a gradual distancing that unfolded step by step rather than through one dramatic announcement. Behind the scenes, advisors were reportedly focused on protecting the monarchy's long-term stability. According to royal commentators, every decision surrounding Andrew was weighed against one central question: how to preserve public trust in an institution built on continuity and tradition. One palace observer explained, "The monarchy survives by adapting, even when adaptation is uncomfortable."
Now, the king has responded. King had broke his silence after the arrest. We have the official statement here. I have learned with deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which the issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. This is about his brother he's writing. This is a tough spot the king is in.
That balancing act placed enormous pressure on senior royals trying to separate personal relationships from public responsibility. The situation also exposed how differently modern royal life operates compared to previous generations. In earlier decades, scandals could fade quietly without constant media attention, but today every development travels instantly across television, newspapers, and social platforms. Public opinion now moves faster than palace protocol, forcing royal leadership to react in real time rather than behind closed doors. What once might have remained internal family difficulty became a global conversation watched by millions. Sources close to royal reporting suggested that internal discussions increasingly centered on accountability and image. The monarchy, they argued, could no longer rely solely on tradition to maintain respect. Transparency and visible action had become essential. As one commentator reportedly said, Silence can protect you for a moment, but eventually the public expects clarity. That expectation created an environment where distance from controversy became a strategic necessity rather than a personal choice.
This scandal has been hiding in plain sight for 15 years. Why have the police spent 15 years choosing not to investigate Andrew? Because they probably knew. What did Charles know? What files are included at Buckingham Palace? We're literally in unprecedented territory, Meghan. And just to give you a bit of color about what's happening today.
Meanwhile, Andrew's role within royal life appeared to shrink further. Invitations reportedly became limited, official involvement decreased, and public association with major royal events grew noticeably rare. Observers pointed out that while he remained a member of the royal family by birth, his public position had fundamentally changed. The contrast between past prominence and present absence became one of the most talked about developments surrounding the modern monarchy. All of this set the stage for the next chapter, a period where consequences were no longer theoretical, but visible in everyday palace operations. The decisions made quietly over several years were beginning to show real-world effects, not only on royal reputation, but also on the people working closest to the institution itself. And as those effects reached palace staff and daily routines, the story moved from headline controversy to something far more personal and immediate. Whether the officer actually carried out that request remains unclear, and that unanswered question continues to hang over the story like a shadow.
He has been saying for 7 years after that car crash Newsnight interview with the BBC, where Andrew made a fool of himself, and by the way, told a tissue of lies. I mean, almost as many lies as Harry and Meghan told to Oprah Winfrey, right? Like, we know that now. And Andrew 7 years ago, William 7 years ago said, Andrew's got to go. He's got to go. He's got to be banished, just like just like Harry and Meghan have to be banished.
At the same time, emails reviewed by the BBC reportedly suggest Andrew may have shared sensitive briefing materials from a 2010 Southeast Asia trade tour with the financier at the center of a major legal case. Documents said to have surfaced among millions of files released by the U.S. Department of Justice. Each new detail has only added more scrutiny and more questions that refuse to fade away. Andrew has consistently denied all allegations made by Virginia Giuffre, maintaining his position throughout years of public controversy. When asked about Paul Burrell's latest book, the palace responded with a brief statement. "We don't comment on such books." A short response, but one that spoke volumes about how carefully the royal institution now distances itself from the situation.
The man remains in police custody at this time. We will not be naming the arrested man. With me is Daniel Sanford, our Home.
So that was they can't name him yet, but obviously the news has come forward and realized, this is what's happening.
And this is where the story becomes even more revealing on a day-to-day level. According to a report in The Sun, an increasing number of palace staff members have reportedly chosen not to serve Andrew at his current residence. An anonymous source claimed staff were informed they were under no obligation to work for him if they felt uncomfortable doing so, an unusual step inside a system traditionally built on strict hierarchy and duty. The source explained, "There's already quite a list saying, no thanks." They added that there is significant unease among employees, with Andrew now viewed as a complete outsider within royal circles. The shift is striking. The same household that once revolved around royal authority is now seeing individuals quietly step away from proximity to a figure who once held immense influence.
So there are a whole load of machinations going on, and the one person and the one couple whose hands are completely clean in this scandal, Meghan, are Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales.
Those closest to palace life, the maids once restricted from entering bedrooms, the staff kept working deep into the night, the footmen who reportedly endured sharp outbursts, appear to have reached a shared conclusion. What Paul Burrell's memoir does is give public voice to stories he claims circulated privately behind palace walls for years. According to Burrell's account, Andrew grew up shielded by a mother who rarely denied him anything, protected from pressures and accountability that shape most public figures. The portrait painted is not just about controversy, but about a system that allowed certain behaviors to continue unchecked for far too long. Today, the landscape looks completely different. The royal titles are gone. The institutional protection is gone. Queen Elizabeth II, once the central figure holding everything together, is gone. And what remains, according to reports, is a man increasingly isolated, with palace staff choosing one by one to step away entirely. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like the video, share your thoughts down in the comments, and keep the discussion going. And most importantly, subscribe to Crown Clash, because every single day I bring you a brand new video uncovering the stories, drama, and hidden realities behind the royal headlines you can't stop talking about.